The cicadas sang their shrill summer song as we waded through knee-high grass beneath the harsh noon sun. Across the overgrown field and parked just outside the woods was a 1978 Dodge Sportsman motorhome. Its exterior deteriorating with rust and mold. Windows layered in dirt and grime. Dead flies piled inside between the bottom of the glass and dusty blinds. "Abandoned," Evan said, tapping a flat tire with the toe of his shoe. "How do you know?" Evan coughed a laugh and motioned with his hand. "Look at it." "Could be someone squatting inside." "Not in this heat." It wasn't running, so he had a point. Windows rolled up, doors all shut. Without airflow, it would be an oven inside. "Maybe it's a meth lab?" Evan turned to me and grinned. "Only one way to find out." He walked over to the camper door and tried the handle. Locked. We tried the cab doors. They were also locked. "Check the wheel wells," I suggested. It seemed like a slim chance, but I figured it was worth a shot. A short moment later, Evan exclaimed, "You're a genius," as he pulled his arm out from a wheel well. A little black box in his hand. He slid off the top and removed a silver key. "Shall we?" I nodded and moved out of the way as Evan inserted the key and twisted. There was a click as the door unlocked. Evan turned to me and giggled with excitement, then slowly opened the door. Immediately, we were slapped with the most putrid, awful odor we'd ever smelled. We stumbled away from the motorhome, gagging. "I think there's a dead body in there," I said, pinching my nose. Evan was hunched over, dry heaving. "Fuck," he said. "I think you're right. Should we call the cops?" Evan straightened up and swallowed a few times. "I don't know. Maybe we should check inside first." I looked over at the motorhome and grimaced. It seemed as if the rotten pungency had physical weight to it. A thick cloud of putridity, so offensive that I worried it was poisonous. "Okay," I agreed reluctantly. We crept back to the entrance with our mouths and noses covered, and slowly stepped into the motorhome. Flies buzzed in and out. Our shoes stuck to the floor with each step. The air was hot and humid, and felt as if it left a grimy sheen on our skin. We were inside only briefly before we saw the source of the odor. A fleshy blob of a human lay like a puddle spilling over the edges of the bed at the far end of the motorhome. Slick with sweat and red-faced, she sat nude, scabbed and blistered. Despite the unbearable heat, she moved her head and blinked at us, and with a look of shock, opened her rotting mouth and screamed, "Boys! Got food in here!" She wasn't talking to us. She was hollering past us. We scrambled for the exit, spilled outside, and immediately heard frantic rustling coming from within the woods and rushing rapidly towards us. We stumbled around the outside of the motorhome, our upper halves trying to move faster than our legs could manage. "Get him!" I heard a male voice holler from the woods as we sprinted across the field. Ahead of us, the grass began to bend like something was crawling in our direction. It was low and not visible at that moment, but as it came closer, we saw the pink flesh of a human back peeking through, and a few feet from it, another. Evan and I changed course and started running diagonally. Those slithering within the grass promptly jumped to their feet and took off after us with leaping strides, By the woods, the others had broken through and were bounding towards us. In all, it was 4 men. They galloped with extreme haste, covering a considerable amount of ground fast. I was running faster than Evan, my legs moving more quickly than ever before. I hadn't even heard Evan fall. What I heard was the snap of his tibia and the panicked cry that followed. Evan had stumbled into a ditch hidden beneath the grass, breaking his leg. I spun around to go back for him, but the 4 had drawn nearer and were close enough that I could see the wild look in their eyes. Evan turned his head just in time to see the bastards arrive. 2 of them grabbed him by his legs and dragged him towards the motorhome. All the while he was screaming and desperately tearing fistfuls of grass from the soil. I had no choice but to leave him behind. The other 2 hadn't given up their pursuit, and as they powered towards me, they began to hoot and holler with anticipation. "We gon' catch you, boy," one of them yelled. "Mama need to eat." It was clear that I couldn't outrun them, and in my realizing this, I caught a lucky glance of a large brown log laying in the grass. I leaped over it, trying to make the jump look less like it was over an object and more like a leaping stride. The display worked. The man nearest to me kicked the log hard, sending him tumbling violently to the ground, while the other, having been so close behind him, ran right smack into him and toppled over and into the grass. It was enough for me to get away and back to my car. 3 deputies met me at a convenience store several miles down the road. Being as far out in the middle of nowhere as I was, it took them about 15 minutes to reach me after I'd called. Once they arrived, they told me to take them to the motorhome. They kept their lights and sirens off as to not alert Evan's captors as we hurried back to the scene. Once we got back to where Evan and I had parked, I led them around a section of woods that jutted out like a peninsula, around to where the field opened up and the motorhome would be visible. We rounded the corner and into the open area, then paused. It was over there, I panicked. "By the woods?" the deputy asked. I spun around and cried, "They've driven off! You gotta hurry!" One of the deputies keyed up on his radio and called in the motorhome details. He sent 2 deputies out to the road to track them down and waited for others to show up before searching where the motorhome had been parked. They found bent grass and fresh tire tracks grooved into the soil, leading to the road. Laying where the motorhome had been parked were 4 flat tires. The motorhome traveled east once they hit the road, but the trail ended quickly. It's been months. Still no sign of them. There's a lot of land out here. A lot of places to hide. Checking it all takes time. The cops have been splitting time between this and their other cases, but without their whole force looking, I'm not sure they'll ever find my friend or those who took him. But I'm still looking, and I won't stop until I find them.